Welcome to SkewbSchool, and in this episode I will be going over the basics of one looking. Next week there will be a video with some more advanced tips. So there are two main parts of one looking. One is tracing pieces, so that means when you do a move, you are going to, in your mind you are going to trace the pieces. So here we know when we do this one move, all these pieces will come on top and these corners and these centers will cycle like this. And the other one is learning case. So for example, this case you learn these two corners stay in the same place and you have and these move like you would do a sledge. So that's our two main parts. And for recognition, some important things is you only need to trace two corners. You only need two corners to know which case you are going to get, and they have to be adjacent. So when you know two opposite ones, you are not certain which case it will be. So whenever you have two headlights, you have a pi case. When you see you have two that are like this or like this, you know you have a pi case. Of course, when you see that two are solved, all corners will be solved. And then the last one for peanut. So if you see these two corners, you know you have the peanut over here, and the same here. So you only need to know two corners, and you need to know three centers. So you of course know the first layer, but then you only need three corners, three centers to know which case you are going to get. There are three ways how you can know three centers. So you can know all these in the horizontal. You can know like this opening, and then you know which case you can get, and you can know the vertical U-perm, so like these three. I will be making more in-depth version of this, of how you can recognize each case with knowing three centers, but that will come in the future. So now we go more in depth on tracing. So if you can trace at all, you of course start at tracing one move layers. So we will start here, and we see here that we have a U center and a opposite. And when we trace the pieces, we see this corner will move to here, and then we know we will have peanut with these two being the U colors. And then we trace the center, so we know this is going down and this is going here. So we see we have two opposites and a U center, so we know we have this case. And then now we go to two corners. When you're comfortable with one move, you're moving on to two moves. So here it's a bit more tricky. So first is our first move, so we are going to trace this corner, and we see it moves to here. And if you look closely and look at the second move, it won't affect this corner. So we know this one will stay here after the first move. And then we're going to look at the second corner, so we will take this one for example. It won't be affected with the first move. So we know when we do the second move, it will move up here. And then we have two corners here and here. So we know we'll have a pi with the headlights over here. And now we will move on to the centers. So we already see we have a solved one here. And then we are going to start tracing. So we see the first moves affects these three pieces, and it will cycle those three. So we see this one will over here, this over here. And then we see with the second move, this one will stay in place. So we already know we have two solved centers. And then we will move the next one. So this one, we know it moves over here. And then with the second move, it will go over here. And then we have three solved centers. And that means that all centers will be solved. So that we have pure pi. So that's the basics, and to practice this, you have to keep going further and further and give yourself time to trace. Don't feel rushed when it isn't working as well, but keep tracing and try to look as far as you can. So there is a tool that can help you with practicing tracing. So you search Skewb skills on Google, or you use the link in the description and you go to the website here SkewbSkills Web, and then you go to last two layers toggle and click on toggle all elks, and then when you generate a case, you get a solved layer with a last layer case. So here, whenever you get the scramble, you apply the moves you want to practice. So if you want to practice a certain case, like the case I just showed, or you want to do a random 2 move, you do a random 2 moves or random 3 moves, and then you try tracing that. And you can also, on the side, you can time yourself. So you have to click with your mouse to start the timer, and then when you're done you can press a spacebar and the time will stop. And now you also have, you can keep track on how well you are tracing. And the thing is, give yourself time to trace, and even if it is really slow, keep one looking, try to one look. That's the main advice that I can give you, is to take as much time as you need to one look. Also, now I want to talk a bit more about learning cases. Learning cases isn't necessary. For example, Carter Kikala, he doesn't know any cases. He can trace like 6 move layers, for example, but it's very difficult to do that. So learning cases can help you. For example, if you know this case, and when you get a scramble as like this, you only have to trace one piece to the elk, to the layer you already know. So there are some videos already up from me, for example, and also from George Scholey. I will link those videos in the description for you if you're interested. And in the future I will also do some more videos on more examples where I show how the pieces work.